Hi everyone, and welcome to the Emotional Intelligence Pawdcast. I'm your host, Sandra Thompson, founder of EI Evolution, and I am super excited to take you on this incredible journey. We're going to be exploring the transformative world of emotional intelligence and empathy, guided by some truly remarkable humans and their fantastic four-legged friends. In each episode, we'll dive into inspiring and heartwarming stories about our beloved canine companions. We'll discover the unique and magical bonds we share with our dogs and uncover the profound lessons they teach us about understanding and managing our emotions. From tales of loyalty and love to moments of learning and growth, our furry friends have so much to offer when it comes to enhancing our emotional intelligence. We'll also discuss practical tips and insights on how to cultivate empathy and emotional awareness in our daily lives, inspired by the natural wisdom of our dogs. So sit back and relax, maybe even with your playful pup by your side, and join us for an enriching experience that celebrates the incredible ways dogs help us connect more deeply with ourselves and others. Welcome to the Emotional Intelligence Pawdcast. I am so excited for this session. Blayne and Tilly, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. Tilly, who's here, is sort of post morning walk. We got a bit wet this morning, and she's just chilling out, which is lovely.
So those of you that are watching the video of this, you just got a sneaky little view of Tilly, who's kind of rolled up next to the piano, looking like, could you just be quiet, please? I'd like to get a little bit of shut-eye.
Absolutely.
So Blayne, before we jump into Tilly, who she is, where you got her from, what she like, tell us a little bit about you. Who are you? What do you do?
Who am I? Blayne Cooper. I currently work for Henley Business School. I lead their employer engagement team, and my career over the last 30 something years. Oh my God, has it been that long? Has really gone from I didn't start in this particular kind of sort of business. I trained as an actor and as a drama teacher. That's what I wanted to do. Although if you met my 10-year-old self, that's not what my 10-year-old self wanted to do. My 10-year-old self wanted to be an airline pilot, but I'm sort of visually challenged. So yeah.
Ah, right.
I'd still do it today. I'd drop everything and go and do it if I had the chance. But being partially sighted, kind of, sort of, I couldn't do that job. So yeah, I trained to act and to teach, and through that process, I loved teaching, and it was something that was really exciting through my teaching practices. And I trained in Wales, so very challenging landscape. It was early 90s, so pre Tony Blair, pre Labour, and so hugely challenging landscape. But I loved it. And when I graduated, I went straight into teaching, and I taught for 17 years in a variety of schools around the UK. And I got to a point where I think, I was sort of mentally, physically burnt out. It took a lot out of me as a job. And an opportunity came up to work in a company in central London, and I took a leap of faith, and it was a big leap because it meant that we had to move as a family. It was a huge change. I was suddenly not doing what I'd trained to do. I was doing something very different, and I was in a very different environment. And being in a corporate environment versus being in a school environment is very different. But what I did was it gave me a real opportunity to do a number of different things. So within a number of few years, I'd managed to kind of pivot my role. I worked in sort of HR, global learning and development, and then an opportunity came along to work for a higher education institute in London, which is where you and I met, Sandra.
That's
which was
right.
great. And again, even within that situation, there was a real opportunity to do different things and to kind of pivot. So I came in initially looking and supporting degree apprentices, both at sort of undergrad and at postgrad level, and then that changed, and I moved into talent development, supporting the kind of the wider, the wider university. And then, life happens, things change, situations change, and through a situation change, I sort of find myself here at Henley Business School, which is great, and it's closer to home. But again, lots of opportunities to really kind of develop the role, and it's very much kind of in its infancy, and which is what I like, and that's kind of where I like to be. So yeah, hugely sort of diverse career, lots of opportunities.
Lovely, thank you, Blayne. I'm going to just seize on an opportunity here to talk about something that you just mentioned, which is acting. Because of course, to get into role, to portray the character of someone else, or to create improvisation of whatever that might be. Just talk me through that from a perspective of empathy and I can't remember the term, but was it Stanislavski who had the crikey, that's digging right in there to the 1980s, Blayne, and my memory. Stanislavski and the method approach, or whatever it was called. Talk to me about that for a minute then, because this is fascinating.
It is, do you know what? I'm probably really not going to do this hugely sort of justice. I think there's an element. Was it 10 years, 11 years now since I taught drama? But for me, certainly when I was performing, the ability to really kind of think carefully about a character and about what element of that character I wanted to portray. And for me, as an actor, there was always an element of myself, something of myself that I would bring to a character. So I give an example. I was very, very fortunate to play Hamlet when I was 21, and for a theatre company in South Wales. And I know a lot of challenges with that character. Partly one, just the sheer amount of dialogue that character has, but the real kind of psychological changes that character goes through the kind of the journey that Hamlet takes, from the beginning to the end. And what I have to do, or I had to do, really was kind of, really sort of break that down and try to sort of find elements within my own sort of kind of personal experiences to be able to bring to the character. And certainly, if you're thinking of, in terms of kind of Stanislavski, realism, that element of bringing yourself to that character and your own lived experiences. So, you may be playing a character that is, suffering grief, for example, but you personally haven't been through that. But there will absolutely be times in your life where you will have been sad or you will have been upset. And sometimes having to go back to those moments to kind of unlock how you felt about that. So it's not going through what the moment is, it was how did you feel at that moment, and then capturing that feeling and then projecting that to that moment of that character.
Sure.
And that's a real journey, and it takes time to be able to do that. And there are examples of great actors out there who clearly are doing that, and they're just wonderful to watch. It feels effortless when you watch them. And it doesn't matter what character they're playing, and they never seem typecast, and that's a lovely thing.
Do you know, I'm a massive fan of people like Olivia Colman right now, because it seems that whatever she turns her hand to, she does it. and it's so incredibly convincing, and I just done it. It's incredible. And I'm going to share a little story actually, Blayne, because as you were speaking, I was thinking, oh, I've got something to share on that. I wonder how this is going to go down. So I took, well, actually, it was my mum who insisted that I went off for drama lessons because I was quite, can you believe it, a shy child. Yeah, I know it's ridiculous, right? And so she sent me off for drama lessons. And when you were just describing Hamlet, I have pictures of me as a 16-year-old
Yeah.
dressed as a witch in all of the kind of prison regalia, all of the chains and everything. And we were in this play. I can't even remember the name of it now, but we were witches, and I was a Welsh witch, and I
Wow.
was being done for, well, all the witchcraft and whatnot. But I don't even remember any of the words. I don't remember the name of the play, but that definitely wasn't method acting because I'd never been to prison. I don't think I've got witchy kind of traits, but the kind of reading that I needed to do in order to understand the scenario that people would have been through. And our drama teacher was extraordinary. She put us through our paces to make it as believable as possible. We won some awards for that, actually. But to your point of doing a particular thing well and giving it the airing it should have, doing it justice, is quite a lot of responsibility, I think. And again, thinking back to empathy, being in honor of that character is pretty massive. So thanks for sharing that.
And and I loved that journey. I loved that sort of exploration that you do with a character, and often, I think in our day-to-day lives we sometimes we don't have the time to kind of do that, and life moves relatively pretty fast, and
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer of taking those moments to reflect.
Mm.
And I've talked about it a lot to people. I've talked about it a lot to students. I sometimes have to remind myself to take my own medicine. I think that's really important.
Mm.
I have my watch now tells me to sort of take a moment to reflect, and I do think it's incredibly
Yeah, it's
powerful.
a good prompt. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be long. It can just be 5 minutes. But just I used to do it as a teacher, which was at the end of a lesson, or at the end of a period of lessons, and particularly if I was kind of teaching multiple lessons, the sort of the same lesson, sort of 2 or 3 times, it was different groups.
Mm.
Just taking a moment to kind of reflect through that lesson. What worked well, what's
Yeah.
my kind of even better if. So we used to use these two things. So what went well and even better if. So what were the things that
Yeah.
were good? What worked well in that session. But once you even better if, so not actually what was bad about it, but what could be better, what could you tweak, what could you change?
Mm.
And that's really important to do that.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed.
because we're not perfect, and we never will be perfect.
Mm. Yeah, no, I
Never.
get it. Well, before we get done for trade description, because there's definitely a podcast about dogs, we better
Yeah,
move on to Tilly, right? That was brilliant. Thank you, Blayne.
pleasure.
But let's now move on to Tilly. What kind of dog is she? Where did you get her from? Oh, here she is. For those of you that are watching, Blayne is bringing Tilly, I think maybe reluctantly. Oh no, there she is with her great big eyes. Wow,
Yeah.
she's gorgeous. Tell me
So
her
Tilly,
backstory, Blayne.
so Tilly now is 2. She's a 2-year-old cockapoo. We had her from a puppy. And as a family, we are or were total sort of dog virgins in the sense that we'd never had a dog. We had always had cats. So at the time that we got Tilly, actually, we still had a cat. We had our cat Woody, who unfortunately passed away a number of weeks after Tilly. Not Tilly's fault at all.
I was going to say, but there was something
Um,
in that vein for a minute, so I'm
yeah,
pleased you cleared that up. Yeah.
yeah. My wife and I, we spent long and hard thinking about whether we wanted a dog and whether bringing a dog into the family was the right thing, and whether we were at the right point in our life to be able to do that. I didn't want
Mm.
to have a dog and then suddenly think, right, okay, the dog needs to, be on its own. I want to be able to kind of be around for it. And my role is hybrid, which is great. So it gives me the opportunity to work from home a number of days a week.
Yeah.
And so we did lots of research and looked at a whole variety of different breeds. But my wife was like, I want something that's not too big. I want something that's fluffy. I want something that's really lovable and that is a little excitable, but is a great dog for the family. And my stepsons are 19 and 15, and our youngest is 9. He's just turned 9. So our children have they've grown up. So we were like, right. And a Cockerpoo was pretty much what sort of came out. And my wife and I were away, and we were sat on the beach. Clearly, I was not enjoying the view because I was looking at my phone, which is a terrible thing to do. Gone all that way, but I was on the kind of the sort of the Kennel Club and the Dogs Trust, varying different sites, and I found a local breeder to us, and who was selling Cockerpoos. And the other thing my wife said, she says, I'd like a female dog. She says, I want a girl. Partly because we're all boys in this family, other than
quite right. Yeah,
she said, I'd like some rebalance in the house.
100%. I understand that.
And I found a local breeder, and I dutifully sort of sent off an email, and he came back and he was like, no, I still have a couple of girls. Perhaps you'd like to come and see them. And we were like, well, actually, we're away. Could you keep one? And long story short, we were like, it worked out. We got home, and the next day we went and collected her, and we had this small, because she's not so small now. For those of you on the camera, she's good. We had this small ball of fluff that basically just bombed around the house. And we were like, what have we done? One of the things that we made a decision to do very early on was to train her. My father-in-law calls it human training, so it's not dog training; it's human training.
Tell me a bit about that.
Well, I think it's more so. We did 3 kind of over the 2 years. We've done 3 kind of main classes. So we did puppy sort of socialization classes, and then we did the Kennel Club's bronze, silver, and gold. So she is gold trained. I have a rosette behind me, which is good.
Well done. A wall of fame.
Yeah. But even the dog trainer was always very much, the dog never makes the mistake. It's the owner, the human makes the mistake.
Yeah.
And that's when my father-in-law said, well, he said, well, it's human training, isn't it? And I was like, well, it is, because I'd never had a dog. My wife had never had a dog. And I found there is a bit of a skill to learning it, and a bit of an art. And interestingly, the dog trainer talks a lot about connection and about making the connection to the dog. And that's what we've spent time really doing. And she does exactly what Cockerpoos do. She's like Velcro, so she won't leave you alone. So you can't go to the bathroom on your own. She'll sit in the bathroom if you're in the shower, and just kind of like, so she is like Velcro, but it is about that connection. So when you're out and about, when we're walking with her, you feel confident to kind of let her off the lead. And that took a while. That was like a child. It's like seeing your child go off to school for the first time. Yeah. It's like you're off the lead going, will she come back?
Yeah.
Will she run away? But she comes back. She's a good girl.
Oh, that's great. So you've put her through her paces, but really the training was for you and your family members. Yeah. And so you talk about connection. Let's explore that a little bit more, because I think, again, the kind of reciprocal commitment to connection is an interesting one. And I do think that does play out in the human environment for our species as well, the investment on both sides. So, what did you do to build that connection with Tilly? Were there particular things that you did that were more successful than other things? What kind of stuff happens?
So the most successful thing is food. That is
Okay.
absolutely the way to connection with a dog is through its stomach and its food. And she does like her food a lot.
Yeah.
Particularly a good way to connect is through ham and cheese. Those two things. So high value treats were great, and that was a really, really good way to get her to kind of focus on you and to do kind of, take those kind of small steps, initially. Cockerpoos are by nature, certainly in their first sort of 2-3 years, very, very energetic, very, very bouncy. She gets very excited if we've been out and we come home. It is literally, it's not cat on a hot tin roof, it's dog on a hot tin roof. It's that's lovely to see. If I compare that to the cat would sort of like look at me as if to say, "You've been out all day, thanks," and then just that was it, Whereas the dog is like, "I've missed you, I love you, love me back," and just keeps on going for ages. And I really like that. I love that. That for me is part of that connection too. And you see it, when she looks at you, you see it in her eyes. She I think she wants to feel like she's independent. Hey, look at me! I can do stuff. But absolutely, she really does, and she loves all of the family. But it's definitely my wife and I. She's Catherine, mine's dog.
Yeah.
So we crate trained her as well. So we crate trained her from day one.
Okay. Right.
So she sleeps in the crate at night. We made a very quick decision. No, this dog is not sleeping on the bottom of our bed or something like that. There has to be boundaries.
Yeah.
And she's perfectly fine. So at 9:30 at night, she'll sort of go, "Oh, I'll go out for a wee," and then she sort of comes back in. And she's like, "I'll go to bed now," and she just goes in a crate. And
so she goes and helps herself. She takes herself off to her bed.
Yeah,
brilliant.
She takes herself off. Yeah,
that's great. There's I think, I hope I've got this right. There's something about their protected space. It's their territory as well, isn't it? I think I've heard that with particularly young children, having a crate is really helpful, because I know that when I was small with Rusty the dog, I'd sit in his bed sometimes. And now when I look back, I think, oh, do you know what? I'm lucky he didn't bite me, because ultimately I was sitting right in the way. And I remember him looking at me to say, "Really? You got the entire house and you're taking up this? There's nowhere else you could sit." I remember him doing that, but thinking, well, I think I'd like to sit here, because at least I'm guaranteed a cuddle. So I get it. Okay, well,
but
that's
it's
really
okay for the dog to come and sit on your bed or on your sofa or whatever, and invade your protected space that you can't.
But to be fair, I have got more choice. I've got more things to sit on than one bed with some blankets in it. But there you are. So let's think then now. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on. I was just going to say we also thought kind of carefully about the location of where we put that, and I think it's a bit like what we do, when you buy sofas or you move into a new room and you look at the kind of the feng shui in the room and you think, right, where do I put my thing? Well, we actually thought carefully about where we put her crate, and we've got a spot in the lounge which is behind the sofa, so it's quite dark then at night for her. It's quite quiet, and it is, you mentioned it feels like it's her safe space. So she's also taken, so she knows the sound now. If if Sainsbury's or any grocery shopping comes along,
other brands are available.
Yeah, she hears the reversing noise of the van, and she's like, "Right, okay, fine." She goes off to her crate, and she knows to wait.
I thought she'd be like sitting by the door, going, "Ham and cheese, ham and cheese, ham and cheese, ham and cheese being delivered right now."
She's got good with that. She's got good with recognising that sound.
So tell me some stories of Tilly that will bring empathy and emotional intelligence to life. Oh, you've got them rolled up, haven't you? You're ready.
Well, I think for me, there's something about, we all have bad days. Everybody has a bad day. Everybody has a bad moment. But do you know what? You come in, you sit down, you look at the dog. The dog doesn't know you've had a bad. The dog's not aware at that point of your bad day. But what I've realised is how intuitive actually they are. And if the tone of my voice changes to something she doesn't like, she immediately is like almost with me, and she's rolling on her back. She loves her tummy rubbed, and it's like, love me, don't be cross, don't be angry. And I sometimes wonder whether she thinks that's, I'm talking to her, and it's not. My wife and I are talking about something where we're not arguing at each other. We're frustrated by something that we've read or seen or heard, and she's noticed that little nuance, that little change in the tone of voice, and she reacts to that in a way as if to say, don't be cross, don't be sad, life's okay, here I am, focus on me. And
so like a distraction, is it like a distraction, Blayne?
It feels like, and I quite love that. I'm not a huge football kind of fan watcher anymore. I was when I was younger. I think I've reached that sort of part in my life now where I'm just like, whatever. But occasionally, if I've watched that and I've sort of said what most supporters will say, regardless of whether it's the national team or my own team, we go, and this is not good. Again, she hears that. She'll jump on the sofa and she'll just kind of lie on you as if to say, don't watch the football. Look at me.
Oh, really?
But it's that. This happened the other day. So we're very fortunate where we live. We live on the outskirts of our town, and there are lots of fields that are literally a minute's walk away, which is great for having a dog. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And really safe as well. So, she's got lots of space to run around in. But where we are is close to a floodplain. So when they built the houses, there are lots of kind of soakaways, which in the winter, are essentially ponds. And it's been lovely in the spring. We've got ducks on there, geese. We've had swans, which is lovely. But obviously, as we've got mildly warmer, I would say, I'm not sure we've had summer yet, but mildly warmer, they've started to dry up. And because they then dry up, they're not as fresh and as nice. She's discovered water in the last few months. And my oldest stepson came home the other day, and I was working here literally at this desk. And I sort of did that. I felt like I was being watched. And I did this kind of slow turn to the left, and he was stood there. And for those of you who can see on the screen, Tilly is a champagne cockapoo. So she is...
Champagne? Wow. That's a great name.
Me, and she's got this kind of slightly darker blonde streak down her back. She was grey from head. I don't know if anybody's ever seen those kind of. They put them on social media. They do their little stories of their dogs, and they see their dogs rolling around in the mud. She literally, from head to foot, was grey. She was sort of sat there, kind of looking at me as if to say, "Well, Dad, I'm very proud of my pond experience today." And my stepson was like looking at me, and he just went, "I'm so sorry."
Oh, crikey.
I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I just sort of turned back to what I was doing and thought, it's only 45 minutes to bath her just to get the stuff off of her.
No. But I imagine you probably could smell her before you saw her, because that type of residue is not most delightful, is it?
No, she was honking. And that was a great thing about cockapoos are they don't molt, which is you don't get sort of hair everywhere. They're kind of hyperallergenic. So for anybody who's got sort of allergies, particularly things like allergies to pets or pet hair, that's really good too. And she is actually quite easy to bath. She does like it.
Well, that's lucky.
But it is that, and I've had those. I've had dog walkers sort of say to me as I walk past, go, "How do you manage to keep your dog so clean?" And I'm like, "Well, yes."
So tell me, that's a brilliant story of how she looked probably partly proud and partly delighted, but probably just like, I wonder what he's going to do with this kind of thing. Tell me now, then, just to kind of conclude, what does it mean to have a dog in the home, particularly thinking about, the skills of emotional intelligence and empathy and connection? What does it mean to have Tilly around?
It's to not have her here is very strange and very unusual. And when she
Mm,
went to be spayed, for those couple of days that she was not here,
yeah,
there was a void and there was an
right.
emptiness,
Yeah.
and she is a very quiet dog. Um, she'll nip out at night sometimes, and she'll just sort of stand proud in the garden and have a quick howl as if to say, "Hello, world, I am still here." Um, but she's when she hasn't been here, it feels really really empty. Um, there's a real calming influence about her. Um, I'm a musician as well, so quite often when I need to kind of de-stress, I used to, I'd pick up my guitar or I'd play. Now I take my dog for a walk twice a day. I walk my son to school with Tilly. We walked this morning. We got a bit wet, but that's fine. We're not made of paper, and it's lovely. You get out, you connect with the world, you connect with nature, you see things. I do a lot of my thinking time at that point, and I'm sure other people that you talk to probably say the same thing. It's a really great
Mm,
time to just reorganize your
yeah.
mind in terms of what your priorities are.
Mm,
Um, and I mentioned about kind of that mindfulness, that reflectiveness earlier on, and actually, it is a great point to be reflective. At
yeah.
that moment. Um, I'm I'm naturally quite a calm person anyway, so but she does help to kind of keep you on a kind of a level
Right.
ground. It's good.
Yeah.
And then I look at the kids, particularly my youngest Asher, and he absolutely adores her. He
Right.
just loves her, and that's quite a special thing to be able to give a young
Mm,
child.
yeah.
Is and he loved the cat before, and he was devastated, once the cat was gone. But
Mm,
he loves Tilly, and she loves him, and they kind
yeah.
of all over each other and be small
You just
children
imagine.
together, which is good. And I think
So I think
and it brings a different perspective to our family, and she's part of the family.
of
She's
course.
and that's key. She's
Yeah.
absolutely number one part of the family. She goes where we go, and
Yeah.
well, she loves a car journey. But yeah,
Wow. Well, that's even better, isn't it? Because some dogs aren't over keen on that. That's been amazing, Blayne. Thank you so much. So we've heard really your story of consciously using empathy in the acting work that you've done in the past. We've talked about Tilly and her introduction to your home as the first dog that you've had, and also the contribution that she makes, the way that she responds to how you're showing up, how the rest of your family is showing up. And the interesting thing is that the question I asked is responded in the way that what would we do if she wasn't here? So it's the very conscious appreciation of what she is and what she brings when she's not around, because it is quite bizarre, isn't it? There's no one coming
it
to the
is.
door, they're not
No,
by your feet, they're that energy, that kind of little bit of noise, that all that type of stuff isn't around. So big appreciation for Tilly right now, right?
absolutely. She's now looking at me as if to say, "Right, come on then. I need to go out. I need a wee." Or actually, it's kind of getting morning break time, so she has like a little stick around kind of 11ish, and she's sort of giving me the "it's stick time, Dad."
Then I think it's stick time, Dad. Thanks so much, Blayne. Thanks so much, Tilly. It's been a delight to have you on, and look forward to seeing you again soon, Blayne. Take care. Bye.
Sandra. Take care of yourself.
So that's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in. If we've not connected already, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on there most days. You'll find me under CXEI Sandra. And also, if you want to find out a bit more about my work, then you can pop along to my website, www.eievolution.com. One final thing, and in the spirit of customer experience and feedback, I wonder if you might consider leaving a review on Spotify. I'll leave that one with you. So until the next time, be well and be pawsome. Ta-ra!